Hi everyone, welcome and thank you for attending today's IBM Middleware User Community Ask the Expert session. I'm Kelsey Tipchania, and I'll be monitoring today's webcast. Our topic is upgrading Tivoli Netcool Performance Manager Wireline 1.3 to 1.43. All phone lines are in listen-only mode. We will have a question and answer session towards the end. However, if you have a question at any time during our presentation, feel free to use the questions box that's located in your dashboard panel, or feel free also to raise your hand and we can unmute you so you can ask your question live. And tomorrow we will have the replay and the slides available for download, so stay tuned for a follow-up email that goes out tomorrow to download the replay from today. Okay, so now I'll introduce our speaker for today. We have joining us Ken Seong Tan. He's a solution architect with Persistent Systems. Thank you, Ken, for joining us today. I'll now turn the floor over to you.
Thanks, Kelsey. Just checking, can everyone see my screen now? Am I broadcasting?
Yes, it looks great. I can see it.
All right, great. So I'll go ahead and get started now. So thanks everyone for joining. My name is Ken Seong Tan, and I'm a solution architect at Persistent Systems. And today I'll walk you through upgrading TNPM 13X to 143. What we will cover today in the agenda. The first part is just a quick note on the end of support announcement for the 1.3.x version of TNPM. And that is being replaced by the latest version of TNPM today, which is 143. Along with that, I'll go ahead and just talk through a couple of new things, what are new in TNPM 143 and why you would want to consider to upgrade to 143. Next, upgrade strategy. So what are the strategies that are in place, or what are the methods that you can use to upgrade to TNPM 143, and followed by some of the high-level upgrade steps that you need to take in order to run the upgrade to 143. And lastly, I'll just go through a quick introductory in terms of upgrade assistance. So if there's any kind of upgrade assistance that is required from any of the customers there, what are the services that are available for us to assist you in order to upgrade your system to TNPM 143, followed by some of the resources, some of the links that are there that will be useful to you, and we'll end with some of the questions that if you have any questions at the end of the presentation. Okay, so I'll go ahead. First one is the end of support announcement. So as you can see here highlighted at the bottom, the second line from the bottom, the TNPM, so basically the whole Netcool suite of products, there are end of support dates that are there. This is due to the Java 6 end of support, and that's therefore affecting a list of products, including TNPM. And as you can see, the EOS date here is 31st December 2018. So we would like to encourage most of our customers to upgrade to the latest version of TNPM that's available, TNPM 143. Okay, and going ahead with TNPM 143. Basically, what is new in TNPM 143 versus TNPM 131 or 13X, right? So there are quite a large number of improvements that most clients or most customers who are still on the 13X versions would appreciate here. And I'll go through some of the high-level features that are new in 143. The first one here is visualization improvement through Dash. So as you know, in TNPM 13X, we were using the Tivoli integrated portal, and starting from the version of TNPM 1.4 onwards, Dash is basically the main page, or the centralized unified login page that all Netcool products would use. So this applies to TNPM, or if you're looking at OMNIBus and other tools as well within the Netcool family, we will all be using Dash. So on 1.4X onwards, basically you are on Dash. On top of that, we also have additional visualization engines. So for those of you who are familiar with TNPM up to version 1.4, you would be familiar with the data view, right? So the data view itself is what we will call a native visualization engine that has been there from the start. And what has been introduced from TNPM 142 onwards and is basically what we call the operations and engineering dashboards. So basically, what we hear from customers are basically that a lot of the reports from TNPM basically produces a lot of reports from data view, but there is no dashboarding capability that are there in TNPM. And basically, this operations and engineering dashboard is basically a major enhancement in terms of visualization to provide the next generation of visualizations that are modern and as well as provide dashboarding capabilities. Okay, moving on, SNMP multi-collector. So for those of you who are on, again, TNPM 13X, you would know that for any SNMP collector, you would need to be separated physically by individual hosts or individual virtual machines. And today, our computer systems have so many multi-cores and large amount of resources, and it doesn't make sense to have individual machines for one SNMP collector. So from TNPM 14X onwards, you would see that we have the SNMP multi-collector options available, where we can have support up to 16 SNMP collectors on a single host. So in this sense now, instead of having 10 SNMP collectors on 10 hosts, you could have 10 SNMP collectors on a single host. So that would greatly reduce the number of VMs that you have and the maintainability of the VMs, that you only need to maintain one machine instead of 10. Okay, moving on. The next one is also on scalability. So previously we have a limit of number of data channels, so that's been increased from 8 to 16. The next one, this is also a very big enhancement that is brought in TNPM, the latest version of TNPM, which is 143. That is the Hadoop-based big data extension for TNPM. So we are introducing big data tools on top of the existing TNPM architecture in order to provide very rapid data streaming and loading into the Hadoop-based HDFS system. That makes it extremely quick for user who wants to access near real-time data from within TNPM, and that data can be used in any other third-party visualization tool if you have. So basically, it's putting all TNPM data into a big data architecture for the user to consume. So that's a very big thing that came up in TNPM 143. Lastly, these are the standard things that you will see: support for new versions of Oracle, DB2, OS, and Internet browsers. Another point to make is that DB2 has been supported since TNPM 1.3.3 onwards. So on TNPM 1.4 onwards as well, you would have DB2 support. Okay. The next list of enhancements, these are slightly more minor ones, so I'll just go through very quickly. Enhancements to diagnostic view, data load. So these are all the standard components within TNPM. So across all the components, we do have new enhancements between TNPM 1.3 and 143 onwards and 143. Okay, so I'll move on to the next part. And this is just a very quick glimpse, right? Just to show you how the OED some screenshots from the operation and engineering dashboards. As you can see here, these are the new dashboards. They are federated within Dash, and they are modern dashboards that can be easily seen, something that can be used by the operations team on the NOC team as well. So this is the new dashboards that have just been released for TNPM 142 onwards. And just a very quick architecture of the new TNPM. So this is basically TNPM 143 architecture. As you can see on this screen here, on the bottom half where you see the persistent message bus. So at the bottom half from that's your existing TNPM architecture. So that nothing changes from there. But what happens is where we collect the data for the big data architecture is we collect the BOF files. So if you're familiar with TNPM, we have the BOF files collected from the file transfer engine of TNPM, and from there it goes straight into the big data architecture where users can consume the data immediately without having to wait for it to be loaded on an hourly basis if we were to follow the standard TNPM practices where the loader loads the data into the database on an hourly basis. Okay, so again, this is some very high level versionings. So basically on TNPM 1.3, 1.2, and 1.4.3, what are the versions that are supported? What are the Oracle versions that are supported? So on the latest version of TNPM 1.4.3, we have Oracle support, 12C, DB2 support, 11X, and of course multi-platform across Solaris, Red Hat, AIX, and also supporting virtualization. Now, before I move on, so now I'll move on to the upgrade strategy. So there are some interesting points here in terms of upgrading TNPM, dependent on which version or which OS that you're working on, and I'll explain to that here. So the first upgrade strategy that I'll show you here is basically for AIX-based TNPMs, existing systems that are on AIX and Solaris. So there are two options here, right? The first option here is, basically a fresh deployment of TNPM 1.4.3, where it actually gives the opportunity for user to have a clean environment, to discard the old hardware that has been hosting TNPM 1.3x, and migrate them onto a new system. So basically, the first option here is to set up an entirely new 1.4.3 system, and what you do is you migrate the customization that has been done on 1.3x onto the new system, run through do a parallel run to ensure that the system is stable and the data is in check between both the systems, and then you can sunset the old system, right? So this is I would call it the greenfield kind of deployment. The other option here is basically to go through the traditional upgrade path, which is upgrading from an existing 1.3x system, could be 1.3.2, upgrade it to TNPM 1.4, and then from there we upgrade one more time to TNPM 1.4.3. So in this scenario, basically you are reusing the existing hardware, and during the high-level upgrade steps that I'm going to provide to you, it will be focused on, one of it will be focused on these traditional upgrade steps, which is from TNPM 1.3x to 1.4.3 on the same hardware. Okay, so as you can see here, just describing how TNPM, how we can get to TNPM 1.4.3, maintain the existing system, do migration of the customization into the new system, and a parallel run. Okay, moving on to option 2. Again, so this is the standard upgrade path. As you can see, there are a couple hops that we'll need to take. So depending on what version you're on, from 1.3x to 1.4, basically you need to be on the version 1.3.2 then you move on to 1.4. So if you're on the older version, for example 1.3.0 or 1.3.1, you will need to go up to 1.3.2 first, and then 1.3.2 to 1.4. And from 1.4, we have a direct path of upgrade to 1.4.3. So we previously we needed to upgrade to 1.4.1, 1.4.2, and then 1.4.3. But in fact, only a couple of days ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago, we released a new interim IF that enables the users of existing TNPM users to upgrade from 1.4 directly to 1.4.3.
Ken, there are a
All right.
questions.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
First question, is DV still present in 1.4?
Right. Answer is yes. So previously, the data view is hosted on what we call Silverstream on the older versions of TNPM. On the latest version of TNPM, which is TNPM 1.4 onwards, they are hosted in JSSM, or in specifically using the WebSphere application server. So data view itself still exists in TNPM 1.4, and we have additional features that are added on top of what was already there in TNPM 1.3.x.
Okay, the next question is 32-bit supported in 1.4.
Yes. So in TNPM 1.4, we are using 32-bit. I'm just going to assume that we are talking about specific components in TNPM, for example, the data channel and data load components. Because I think from my experience, most of the questions around 32-bit and 64-bit comes from there. The answer is yes. We support 32-bit and 32-bit OS on TNPM 1.4. So the collectors and the data channel components, they do support 32-bit architecture.
Okay, the last question was about the upgrade strategy for Linux, which I think you're going to go over next.
Yeah, so I'll go through that right now. So upgrade strategy for Linux or Red Hat, it's slightly different from AIX and Solaris. And the reason for that is that there is no, for the same server, so if you're trying to upgrade on the same existing hardware, from Red Hat itself, there is no upgrade path from Red Hat 5 to Red Hat 6. So in this case, there's a limitation in terms of upgrading the operating system from Red Hat 5 to 6. Therefore, we need to take a different approach rather than doing a direct upgrade on the same hardware. There's a second option that we need to go through. So if you look on the screen now, option 1, just go on to here. Option 1 here is what the standard that I explained earlier. You set up a new system and you migrate the customization that you've done to a parallel run. Option 2 is a bit more interesting here. So what happens here if you're on Red Hat and you're trying to go to 1.4.3, the latest version is you need to do what we call a box-to-box upgrade or a box-to-box migration. What this means is that from TNPM 1.3x, you can upgrade to 1.4, and that's on Red Hat 5.x, 5.9 if I'm not mistaken, but yeah, on Red Hat 5. So what happens is TNPM 1.4 supports both Red Hat 5 and Red Hat 6. But because you can't upgrade Red Hat 5 to Red Hat 6, what you need to do in option 2 that you're seeing here is you need to have a new system, right? A new VM or a new host that is on Red Hat 6.x and has all the prerequisites packages that needs to be installed on for TNPM. And what we need to do here is we will do what we call a box-to-box migration from a the old system, the existing system that's on Red Hat 5 to the new system that's on Red Hat 6. So basically on TNPM 1.4, that's kind of the version of TNPM that supports both Red Hat 5 and 6. So that's the version that we'll use. We'll stay on that. We do a box-to-box migration. And then once we are on the new system that's on Red Hat 6, we can continue to upgrade to TNPM 1.4.3, and that's on Red Hat 7.2. So from Red Hat 6 to 7, that's fine because they have upgrade path that allows us to upgrade the Red Hat versions on the same server itself. The only exception for Red Hat is when you go from 5 to 6. So that's why option 2 here, as you can see, this is basically the suggested approach or the strategy which we will need to do the upgrade. And that will be also the second part of what I'll cover later on today in terms of what are the high-level upgrade steps that will cover both box-to-box migration as well as the standard upgrade that you will go through. Okay, so I'll move on to the next section, which is basically now going through the high-level upgrade steps. So the steps here are high-level, and it's meant to be more like a checklist to ensure, to double check that you're doing things correctly, and also it covers some of the common things that people normally or the administrators might have missed during an upgrade process. So these are kind of like a checklist to ensure that you've got the basics covered. So, and it also helps you to do some sort of a troubleshooting if you do get into some issues when you try to upgrade, right? So high-level upgrade steps. So these are the general steps. After that, we'll move on to specific components. So for general means all servers that are hosting TNPM instances, of course, download the required installers. You need to ensure that the operating system is already upgraded to the required version. So for example, if you're trying to go on 1.4, ensure that you're on Red Hat 5.9 before you upgrade. Third point, very important, is run the prerequisite software check, because we have had many times that we've seen when customers try to run the upgrade, but some of the prerequisites are not met, because in the newer versions of TNPM, you may need newer packages or packages that you might not need before because of the new features and enhancement that has been introduced. So do run the prerequisite software check that's available on the IBM Fix Central, right? Next, pre-checks reports and usernames for duplicate. So this is this steps is provided in the upgrade documentation. So you want to make sure that when you do the upgrade, there are no duplicate reports or usernames in DataView itself. All right. Point number 5, very important. Always backup before you do your upgrade. So these are the common areas that normally you will need to do your backups. So number 1, database. So I believe if generally you would go to your DBA to do a full database backup before you actually do an upgrade. That's number 1. Number 2, data channel. So these are the folders, or I would say these are the default folders. So in your installation, you may have different folders, but basically where you install all your data channel components, this is the folder that you want to back up. Data load, data mart. So these are the standard folders that you want to back up before you do your upgrade. And data view, you also want to upgrade the, so you also want to back up the data view folder that you have there. There would also consist of a lot of the style sheets and the JSP files. So these are things that you want to back up before you do your upgrade. Okay, move on to the actual steps itself. So assuming if you're on 1.3x itself, so you would be on Oracle. So what you need to do is you need to perform what we call an out of place upgrade. So you need to perform an out of place upgrade to 11.2.0.3. And this is a recommendation from Oracle. And out of place upgrade basically means that when you install the new Oracle server, you don't install it in the same Oracle home directory as your existing installation. You install it in a new directory. So that's what we call an out of place upgrade. And then for Oracle Client, you perform an in-place upgrade. So you upgrade and you replace the existing Oracle Client to 11.2.0.3, 32-bit client. Okay, and how do you upgrade the Proviso database to Oracle 11.2.0.3? Basically, you need to stop all the TNPM components. So DC components here is your data channel components using DCCMD stop all your data mart components. So you can look at PIS MGR stop, and if you have any data mart GUIs, for example, resource editor, request editor, make sure all of those are closed. You can use the data mart status tool to check if there's anything that's still open. And then after that, what you want to do is there's a tool from Oracle itself. It's called pre-upgrade informational tool. It's kind of like a prerequisite checker to ensure that you have everything in place to upgrade your Oracle from to the version 11.2.0.3. And then once that's done, it shows that you don't have any issues. You go ahead, shut down the database. You want to migrate all the TNS names, SQLnet, Listener, Aura. So these are basically all your configuration files from your existing Oracle to the new Oracle home that you have installed based on the out-of-place upgrade. and create the soft links that are also existing in your existing Oracle to the new system. And then you run what we call the start upgrade command on Oracle. And after that, you revalidate all the packages after the upgrade in Oracle itself. So that's how you upgrade the Proviso database to Oracle 11.2.03.
Ken, we have a couple of questions.
Yep, go ahead.
Back to the 32-bit support for the data channel, is there also 64-bit support for the data channel?
Right. So I was expecting this follow-up question. The answer now is that in TNPM 143, we are the data channel components are still on 32-bit architecture. However, I understand that the next release of TNPM, which is 1.4.4, will be introducing the data channel that supports 64-bit architecture. So this removes the 4 GB memory limitation that that the components of data channel will have. So this is something that in 143, which is today the latest version, still is on 32-bit, but the next release, I believe that will be in the first half of 2018, that will have support for 64-bit.
Okay, we have one other question for the Oracle migration. Is that keeping the old data?
Okay. So basically the Oracle migration. So I guess you're talking about the out of place upgrade. So in terms of if you're talking about the out of place upgrade for Oracle, in fact you are it is an Oracle procedure that basically we install the new version of Oracle on a different path and then run through the scripts within that's provided by Oracle to do the out of place upgrade. So basically Oracle itself, the tool itself will handle the movement or the tagging of the files, the data, into the new Oracle system. So this is something that is not handled from within TNPM, but basically this is a standard upgrade step that Oracle provides for users who want to go on Oracle 11G.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions at this time.
Okay, all right. So I'll continue. The next component that you want to install is JSSM, which I've explained earlier is the replacement of TIP. As you know, TIP, Tivoli Integrated Portal, it is an older, it's a different tool that used to be hosting the front end for TNPM. And for JSSM itself, there is no direct upgrade path that brings a user from TIP to JSSM. So what we need to do here in this case is essentially we are performing a full installation of JSSM with its supporting components dash. And after that, what we do is we actually install the data view component on dash as part of upgrading TNPM. So as you can see here, you want to install for JSSM to be installed. There's a couple things that needs to be there. JSSM DB2 WebSphere. You can install that, straightforward installation, and you should be able to see the dash login page. And then after that, you configure to add on the data view component on the JSSM. Moving to upgrading TNPM. So first thing you need to do is uninstall the older version of Topology Editor. And once you have uninstalled that, you can start the Launchpad. In fact, install. Yeah, that will be there. Yeah, so start the Launchpad, and then what you want to do is we call a step called the data channel upgrade preparation. So what that essentially does is drains the data channel component. So it makes sure that there's no residual or things that are in process at the moment. So it's kind of like clean up whatever that is currently being processed in data channel. And then step number 4, run the upgrade preparation for Oracle. So basically upgrade the database in terms of the content of TNPM content in Oracle database to the new version, which is 11.2.0.3. And step number 5, once that's done, you want to install the topology editor of version 1.4. and then you launch the topology editor after you install it. And then you would have, you will be able to load your existing topology. So the existing topology is the 13X topology. Just make sure everything is fine. One extra thing that you need to do, as we mentioned earlier, there is no upgrade path from TIP to JSSM. So in the data view component of the topology editor, you want to run this feature. Basically, you right-click on the data view component in the logical view, and you select import existing dash from hosts, and then basically you key in the credentials for dash and the server name for dash, and it would automatically detect that this is a JSSM server with dash, and TNPM would install the data view component on JSSM. All right, so after that, what you do, you deploy your upgrade topology, you update your data mart component because, as you know now, your Oracle home is now a new location because of the out-of-place upgrade. And then you can go ahead and start all the TNPM components once you have done the deployment. Cron jobs, enable the cron jobs, start the data mart components, data load your SNMP collectors, data channel UBAs, FTEs, CMEs, loaders, daily loaders, and your data view is basically starting your JSSM system. So that's basically a high level in terms of how you do a standard upgrade from 13X or specifically 132 in this example to TNPM 1.4.
We have a couple more questions.
Go ahead.
Do I need DB2 for JAS even if I'm running Oracle as a data store?
Okay, so if you have Oracle as a data store, you still need DB2 because there is DB2, WebSphere, and JSSM. All these three components come together. So basically, JSSM itself is tied to DB2. But for example, if you've installed Tivoli Common Reporting, for example, you can have your store, your data store in Oracle. That doesn't matter. But for JSSM itself, you will need DB2, and it's kind of like everything's installed together, and in fact you don't need any additional license for that. It comes all together in a package.
Okay, we have one more question. Can high-level upgrade steps be automated? Can you have no GUI involved?
So automating the upgrade steps. We do not. Unfortunately, we don't have automated upgrade that is there. It definitely has to be done manually, and the reason for that is because every customer's environment is very different. The number of customization that is there, and the number of distributed environments that are there. So basically, what I'm saying is that every customer environment is very different from each other. So it has to be taken from a customer to customer specific, because most customer would have, for example, specific customization that does enrichment, for example, that is outside TNPM. So all this needs to take into account, right? So therefore, it is something that is quite complex and therefore not something that I believe that we can automate the upgrade procedure itself.
Okay, thanks. That's all the questions at this time.
All right. So I'll move on. So just now I talked about upgrade from TNPM 1.3x to 1.4, and now from 1.4 to 1.4.3. As what I mentioned earlier, previously there wasn't an upgrade, a direct upgrade path from 1.4 to 1.4.3. So user would need to go through an incremental upgrade path from 1.4 to 1.4.1, 1.4.2, 1.4.3. However, on 30th November itself, great timing. There is an upgrade path now that is available, being released. It's IF09 on TNPM 1.4.3 that now supports an upgrade, a direct upgrade path from TNPM 1.4 to 1.4.3. Upgrade steps are very similar to what I've covered just now, except that now you don't need JSSM because it's already installed. And I've provided the link in the resources page for you to be able to access this information if you like to access that, right? So there's a two-step upgrade from 1.3x to 1.4 and 1.4 to 1.4.3. So I'll move on to the next step, which is now the high-level upgrade steps for a box-to-box migration. So for box-to-box, this is basically where you want to do it is on when you're on 1.4. So basically you are upgrading from 1.3.2 to 1.4. If you're on Red Hat, you do a box-to-box migration, and then you continue from 1.4 to 1.4.3. So how do you do a box-to-box migration? Somewhat straightforward. One of the key things, these are the general points and the key areas that you need to take into account is, again, prerequisite software check. And then you need to install Oracle or DB2 on the Red Hat 6 server. Basically, I call it the new server. And one thing that's very important is you need to ensure that you use the exact directory path. So if you've installed it in, say, OPT, Oracle, in the old server, you need to ensure that you are installing it in OPT, Oracle as well, not OPT, IBM, Oracle, because the TNPM software itself is already hard-coded in terms of what directory it's looking for to access Oracle. So if you've changed the installation directory of, for example, your database client, that would have issues. So make sure of that. Number 3, ensure that you have the same host name mapped to the Red Hat 5 server. So your old server, for example, if it's called TNPM Data Load 1, the new server should also be called TNPM Data Load 1. So you need to talk to your IT folks in terms of how you manage the DNS. You might want to play around with the etc host settings to ensure that the duplicate host name issue, you don't get a duplicate host name issue. And the reason again why we need the same host name is because a lot of the binaries that are being configured, so basically what you configure in the topology editor, you configure and you install it on a host name basis. So therefore, the system would also look for the same host name when you do a box-to-box migration. So you have to ensure that you keep the same host name when you do a box-to-box migration. And lastly, ensure that whatever firewall permissions or restrictions that you have applied in your old server, make sure you apply them in your new server, because a lot of times we've seen when customer upgrade or do a box-to-box migration to the new server, some components are not talking to each other, and sometimes for example, you have an SNMP collector or UBA collector, it's not able to access the network equipment that it's trying to pull because it's behind a different firewall, and that firewall doesn't permit the traffic to go through. So just ensure that all this testing has been done when you do a box-to-box migration. Okay, go ahead with the data load. So for data load, stop the components, and again, what you need to do is you need to move or copy the OPT data load directory that if you're using the standard default installation, as well as a few other files as mentioned to the new server, and you should be able to start the collector on the new server quite easily. Going ahead with data view itself, for data view, basically you are not exactly doing a box-to-box migration. What you're doing is, again, you're installing a fresh JSSM server, and then what you do from topology editor itself, you are adding a new data view component on Dash. So that's basically what you're doing. So you're installing a new JSSM, going to topology editor, and basically adding the new JSSM as the host in the topology editor. Moving on to the data mart. So for data mart itself, if you want to do a box-to-box migration, you would want to migrate the cron tab that you have, stop data mart component, which is PIS-MGR stop, ensure that all the components are not running. So any GUI that's been opened, ensure that it's closed. You want to copy up the OPT data mart directory, as well as a list of files listed here below. These are all the files that you want to copy to the same location in your new server on Red Hat 6. And then after that, what you can do is start up the data mart components and ensure that everything's running. So quite straightforward as well. Moving on to the database. So for database itself, what you want to do is you want to clone the database that is on the Red Hat 5 to a Red Hat 6 to the new server. So basically, this is you are using basically a the Oracle tool itself to help you to do a what we call a physical standby database method on the Red Hat 6. And then essentially what you're doing is within Oracle, you're doing a failover to a Red Hat 6. And of course, in order to prepare you for the failover, there are a list of files that you need to copy over, and there are some specific TNPM related files that you need to also copy over and create those soft links on Red Hat 6. So those are all listed in the steps here. Right. So that's all I have for the upgrade steps for the standard upgrade and the box-to-box migration. Next, I'll move on to upgrade assistance.
I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
About the data load. There was a question about the data load as in S to the P data load. What about UBA?
Right. So if you do an upgrade, so I guess in general, the question would be if I have UBA collector, what are the considerations in TNPM upgrade? So for SNMP and UBA, sorry, I should say for UBA and data channel, they're pretty much considered the same. So whatever steps that was mentioned for the data channel, for box to box in this case, looking at data channel. Oh, interesting. I think I missed out the data channel component. So for the data, sorry, I missed out one step in this box migration. So I'll include that in the PDF and I'll send it out later. So for the data channel component, which consists of UBAs, FDEs, CMEs, generally the steps are quite similar. You stop all the components using the DCCMD stop all command, and basically you copy over the OPT proviso data channel directory to the new server, and you start up the components there. Of course, you also need to stop all the visual components. So they are the AMGR, CMGR, CNSW, and LockW. These are the agents that needs to be stopped as well. So basically, stop all the components in data channel. Copy over the OPT proviso data channel folder over to the new server and start up the components there. I'll include those steps in this slide because I missed it here. I just realized that I missed out the data channel component for the box-to-box migration.
There's another question. Can you please talk about data mart? Can you please talk about data mart migration, discovery, formula, and inventory?
Okay. Yeah. So for data mart migration itself, if you're talking about the formulas and you're talking about the inventory, so on and so forth, right? All of them. Okay. So if you're talking about inventory and you're talking about discovery formulas, those are actually stored within the OPT data mart directory. So if I'm not mistaken, stored in one of the subdirectories there. You would have your sub element and your elements .dat, and you have your inventory for that as well. So all of those files are actually stored in the OPT data mart directory itself. So when we do the copy over from OPT data mart to the new server, all those files are already taken into account. So those are also being migrated. If you're talking about SNMP formulas that, for example, you've created from your existing systems, so SNMP formulas that you create from existing systems, those are stored in the database component. So those will also move along when you migrate, as you also migrate your database component through the box-to-box upgrade steps.
Thanks, Ken. That's all the questions we have at this time.
Okay, thank you. So I hope the steps doesn't seem too complicated to upgrade. So which is why we now have a flow chart here to help you if you need any upgrade assistance from us. So we go through from the top. Client needs an upgrade. Yes. Does the client need some help to plan the upgrade? If the answer is yes, within Persistent itself, we do have what we call a services discovery phase, where we actually do a health check of your existing TNPM system, and we find out what are the customizations that you've done on your system and the components that you've installed on your system. And from that, in fact, what we do is we come up with an upgrade plan for you that you can choose to follow, to do it yourself, or if you need services to also do end-to-end upgrade, that's also a possibility. So if you need help to plan, yes, there is what we call a discovery phase that can be done to help you understand what you need to do to upgrade. If you don't need help to plan, then the question is, are you doing a self-upgrade? If the answer is yes, then you can go through the normal support channels that you have subscription for if you have any issues. And if you do not plan to do a self-upgrade, there's kind of an array of services that you can actually engage in order to do, for example, end-to-end upgrade. On top of that, if you need some sort of, instead of an end-to-end upgrade, if you want, for example, just 10 or X number of days in order to support you during the upgrade, that's also possible. So basically, we provide consultancy while you do the upgrade. And the last one is if you need any kind of technical enablement training, that's also something that can be provided. So I think the next couple of slides here have a couple of explanations in terms of what kind of assistance that can be provided. As we see, you can, we can suggest to you what are the upgrade options that you that are available, what is suitable for you, and based on what you've selected, we can have a multi-tiered kind of proposal. And of course, on top of that, we can also do remote administration if you would like. This is something that is outside TNPM upgrade itself. System health checks if you have any issues or performance issues within your system. We'd be glad to go in and check out your environment to give you some suggestions in terms of is there some components that are being bottlenecked or some configuration that needs to be updated. Enablement, so if you need TNPM product enablement in terms of technology pack development, so we're talking about UBA tech packs and SNMP tech packs. If you need user training or administrator training, that's available. OED and BD enablement, so basically these are the new tools that are there. Operational engineering dashboard enablement or big data extension enablement, that's there as well. So this is the support extension package that we talked about. So you could get, for example, a 60-day support in a year, 120 days support in a year, or 240 days support in a year. So depending on what kind of support that you need from us, we do have some packages that are available that you can engage us in order to help you with managing and maintaining a TNPM system. And just, I think this is the second last slide. Why Persistent services? Basically, Persistent is the SME for performance management, specifically also for TNPM. We in fact do the product development for TNPM for the past 5 years. So we have a lot of expertise in that area. Resources, so these are some of the key resources, some of the information that you will probably like to see. First one, TNPM documentation. So you can find TNPM documentation on the IBM Knowledge Center. If you'd like to download the PDF versions, personally, I like to download PDF versions of install guide, administrator guide, so on and so forth. You can find that on this link here for all TNPM documentation on PDF versions. Earlier, I mentioned that there's an upgrade path from 1.4 to 1.4.3 that was released last week. Links also there in order to get to download the interim fix as well as the steps to upgrade. And next two are just general information that you might want to see. Moving elements between SNMP collectors and data channel. Why I included in there is because, again, in 1.3x, you need one SNMP collector per host. In 1.4, you can have 16 SNMP collector per host. So this gives you an option to consolidate all your SNMP collectors together. And in order to do that, you probably need this documentation here, which is to tell you how can you move elements between SNMP collectors and data channels. And lastly, this is something that I thought maybe some of you might be interested. Some people might be asking if I want to migrate from Oracle to DB2 instead. So basically on TNPM 1.4, there is a tool that has been released on Developer Works. So it is not supported on the I would say the L2 or L3 support channel, which is going through the PMR route. But this is something that a tool that has just been released that you can use that actually does the migration from Oracle database to DB2. Something that you might want to check out if you're interested. If you need some help, you can contact us. We can assist to provide some consultancy there. All right, that's all I have. I'll open up to any questions.
If anyone has any questions, if you could just type them into the chat, or you can raise your hand and we can give you a microphone so you can speak. I have a question. I don't know if the TNPM Wireless now support DB2 on the new version.
Good question. Yeah, so we did not cover TNPM Wireless, so this is specifically for wireline, but I can answer that question for you. TNPM Wireless today, we still only support Oracle. We do not support DB2.
Okay, there's no other questions.
All right.
Oh, here's another question. When will version 1.4.4 be available?
Good question. So technically, we're not supposed to provide any kind of confirmation in terms of dates, but it's looking to be in first half of 2018. So I think if you're more interested and you want to know a bit more, I think you can probably drop me an email. My contact's at the first page, and I can help to provide you a little bit more details through that communication.
Okay, so with that, we'll go. Is there anything else that we wanted to say for the session, or should we go ahead and close it?
That's all the questions that we have.
Okay, great. All right, thanks everyone. This was a great interactive session. We appreciate your feedback and participation. We'll go ahead and post the replay and the slides and the IBM Middleware User Community webcast archives for you to download. So stay tuned for a follow-up email with a link that goes out to download that. So thanks again, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.